Let's turn our attention to Welcome to Country. We had the opposition Indigenous Australian spokeswoman, Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price. Now, she's called for an end to Welcome to Country acknowledgements before every sporting event and public gathering. Now, why? She says it's because the practice is, quote, wrong and dividing the nation, and she says the comments come following that of the former Prime Minister Tony Abbott last week. He conceded he was getting a little sick of Welcome to Country, arguing the nation belongs to everyone, not just to some of us. Here's what Tony Abbott said last week, to remind you.
I'm getting a little bit sick of Welcomes to Country because it belongs to all of us, not just to some of us. And I'm getting a little bit tired of seeing the flag of some of us flown equally with the flag of all of us. And I just think that the longer this goes on, the more divisive and the more difficult and the more dangerous that it's getting.
Start with you, Bronwyn. You agree?
Well, I think Tony made a very good point there, particularly very often that expression is followed up by this is Aboriginal land, always was, always will be, which makes people very angry because it's not the case. And I just think that this whole voice question has just divided the country appallingly. And I just find that people are now starting to question things like the Welcome to Country and the way it is used, and you might get 5 lots in a single session, and they're feeling, no, well they don't need to be...
I know a public servant who says that they have like 5 meetings in a day, and there's one of these...
Yeah, well, people are feeling they don't need to be welcome to their own country.
So it's... Linda, do you think it, because we do it so frequently, that it lessens the impact? I mean, when I ever first saw a Welcome to Country, I thought, well, that's interesting. I mean, I didn't, quite understand what it was all about, but it sort of stood out. Now that we do it so frequently, it sort of loses its impact, doesn't it?
Well, I think that obviously welcome...
Do you do it before the council meeting?
We do it, and we do a Welcome to Country, and then the Lord Mayor chooses to say a prayer as well, and then we also acknowledge the many different citizens from across our country who live in the city of Sydney. So that's our standard welcome. Yes, she chooses to do that.
That's welcoming everybody.
Well, that's her choice.
Because we are a multicultural country.
But of course, for or 60,000 years, people have welcomed each other to country when they've moved between, in the city, in my patch of the world, in the city of Sydney, it's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and when they would travel to another nation, they'd be welcomed onto that land. So this is a practice that we've had for, really tens of thousands of years, and I think it's a really wonderful, unique Australian tradition that we carry on. I don't think we're doing it too frequently because I think that it is part of really important truth-telling. Even though it wasn't that long ago that I went to school, there was still a huge amount of things about Australian history that I didn't learn in school, and part of the tradition of introducing a Welcome to Country is to introduce some more factual history about our country and what country we're on. And I think it's really wonderful now that most Australians know the name of the Indigenous country that they live on. That was not the case when I grew up. So I think it's a really important and long-standing Australian cultural tradition.